Hey everyone, in this video I'll talk about 6 of my favorite authors. I'll tell you why I love their work and my favorite of their works and things I like and things I dislike about them. First, let me qualify this question. Favorites change over time as you change yourself. So by favorites here, I mean the authors that I've spent most time reading. Of course, there are many novels that I love by other authors. So this list is more like these novelists resonated with me, influenced me, and taught me. They're not necessarily the greatest novelists of all time, but I have read all or most of their works. And that's the main reason they're on the list. It's purely subjective. If I made this list 10 years ago or 10 years into the future, it would be different. Okay, now let's get right into it. There are no particular order. Fyodor Dostoevsky is perhaps the first novelist I have read all of his novels, and my favorite novel of his is Crime and Punishment, and my favorite of his short story is White Nights. Why do I like him? He doesn't beat around the bush, he doesn't sugarcoat things, he gets deep and dirty. He talks murderous thoughts, religious convictions, fancy modern ideas, so he gets inside your head. Yes, reading Dostoevsky is like reading your darkest thoughts. He was a novelist, but today is considered a psychologist and philosopher, so he carved a new discipline by combining literature with philosophy and psychology. We should call it Dostoevsky, just like Kafkaesque. He didn't shy away from the darkest moments of our existence. What makes you sleep at night? What is the meaning of life and what makes someone happy? In his writing style, he combined crime genre with philosophy and psychology. And he was a master of different voices. He can talk a nihilist, a religious priest, a murderer, a romantic hero, all in the same conversation. But having said all that, I have 2 gripes with Mr. Dostoevsky. First, this is not only exclusive to Dostoevsky, but all 19th century Russian novels. It is the multiple names for his characters. Each character has got like 4 to 8 names to confuse the hell out of you. I guess it's more Russian language than Dostoevsky. Another weakness in Dostoevsky is his criticism of rationality, to the point that he thinks religious dogma and irrationality are on par with reason and logic. Towards the end of his life, he developed a kind of allergic reactions towards all Western ideas, good and bad, to the point that he thought Orthodox Christianity and Russian spirit were better than all other ideas. Despite his nationalistic and religious tendencies, I love his raw honesty and unflattering views of human existence. The second novelist who I have spent most time is Kazuo Ishiguro, the Japanese-British author. 2 of my favorites of his works are The Remains of the Day and Never Let Me Go. Why do I like his work? To put simply, his writing is not that beautiful, but what I love about his work is the way he tells stories. Subtlety is his game. Yes, his storytelling is very clever because they are beautifully crafted. Yes, he's a master of unreliable narrator, but the way he depicts his characters, you feel you're like a detective. Like a friend talking to you while trying to hide a few things from you, but you can see through it all. Ishiguro is a slow but methodical writer. His novels are carefully written, word for word, very polished, like a sushi chef takes his time before slicing a fish. I guess his Japanese background shows in his writing. Perfection is the aim of the game. Another thing I love about Ishiguro's novels is his characters, mostly lonely people with disturbing pasts that they're desperately trying to twist in a positive light. You can see their suffering, but they never consciously show it. Instead, you witness how vulnerable they are. Okay, things I don't like about Ishiguro's writing is that he tries to experiment a bit too much, so some of his novels don't really come off that great. I think he tries too hard not to be formulaic. So he writes in a completely different genre or a historical period. This makes some of his novels a bit too unbelievable. But Ishiguro is still my favorite author because of his clever storytelling that makes you pause and think. I've read most of Haruki Murakami's novels. Why do I like his work? To put simply, they are entertaining, the language being simple and flowing, so reading Murakami is like watching daytime TV. You pick one or just read, you don't have to think too much. It frees you from worrying what is behind the story. His novels don't have many layers, he explains everything. I often go back to his novels after reading something heavy. I feel relaxed. Why? His characters are not deep in their thoughts. They take things less seriously and go about their mundane lives like myself. Murakami is a master of mundane and simple things in life. Also, his stories are full of random surprises, often not logical or rational, so unpredictable. He says, "When I write a novel, I place more importance on the subconscious world than the conscious world. The conscious world is the world of logic. What I'm pursuing is the world beneath logic. Not many disturbing twists, but twists that you keep reading again. Murakami takes your hand like a grandpa and explains everything, so I find myself liberated when reading his novels. It's an escape. Now, what I don't like about his work, well, the biggest is his endings. Nothing memorable. So reading Murakami is like going on a journey. You have to enjoy the little moments along the way, and at the end, you won't reach the top of a mountain for a beautiful view, but inside a hotel room that looks pretty ordinary. It's the journey, not the destination, so to speak. I still love going back to him from time to time, and the good news is that he's so prolific that you can never run out of Murakami novels to read. Two of my favorite novels by Haruki Murakami are Kafka on the Shore and Why the Bird Chronicle. Okay, Marcel Proust was a one-novel wonder kid. He wrote one and called it a day. That's not quite right. He wrote one novel and can be compared to like 10 novels by some other authors. In Search of Lost Time is more than a novel. It's one man's life's obsession and dreams. It's no exaggeration that this novel has made the most impact on me. I consider it to be my favorite novel of all time. Why? It's deeply poetic, deeply psychological, and deeply revealing what it means to be a human being. It's so profound that reading it feels like you're reading yourself, your subtlest experience of life. Let me give you an example. In this novel, you can smell your memory, you can touch your past memories, and you can taste your childhood. Where in literature is that even possible? That's what Proust managed in his masterpiece In Search of Lost Time. It's a novel that actually defeats our worst enemy, time. Another thing I love about this novel is that it's not political or ideological. It's an artistic novel with its subject matter being more evolutionary biology that focuses on the small emotions and sensations. It's a mirror you can see yourself and your past inside. Okay, I should also say one thing I dislike about Proust's novel. It's exhausting to read it. You have to really be committed to read it. In our social media world, our attention span is like that of a fish inside a tank. So reading Proust means you have to confine yourself for at least 6 months or just read snippets of it. A few years ago, I came across a short story called Cathedral by an author I hadn't heard of. I loved the short story so much that I bought his other books of short stories, and then more and more. I've read most of Raymond Carver's short stories. I generally don't read short stories, but Carver is an exception. Why? He writes about everyday life, about the rustic simplicity of ordinary people. His heroes are you and me. He's down to earth, unassuming, and funny. But what I love the most about Carver's short stories is his unique voice. What do I mean by voice? The way he narrates his stories. Here's an example from what we talk about when we talk about love. There was a time when I thought I loved my first wife more than life itself. But now I hate her guts. I do. How do you explain that? What happened to that love? What happened to it is what I would like to know. I wish someone could tell me. Okay, Raymond Carver was great and I only wish he wrote some novels. That's the only thing I feel missing. If you like short stories, then he's your man. Charles Bukowski is a recent discovery for me. I read all his novels. The great thing is that they are fast-paced. His language is not flowery at all, mostly simple and often crude. I loved his honesty the most. His characters are simple men who go about their lives for food and sex. I think that's very unique in literature. Literature is a high art, so novelists have tried not to reduce humans to animals, except some allegorical novels. Bukowski taps into that animalistic side of human experience. The insatiable urge of men for sex, the precarious world of moving from job to job, the volatile experience of growing as a boy, and many more. He also writes in a quick, punchy style, as if you're watching an animal documentary, so fast-paced. Okay, what I dislike is that his novels tell the same story over and over. His protagonists are all the same person, so there's no variety to speak of. But I still loved and enjoyed reading him. Two of my favorite novels by Charles Bukowski are Post Office and Ham on Rye. Who are your favorites? Please write them in your comments. Thank you.